Hello there and thanks so much for joining us on this Monday night. This is NTV Tonight and these are our top stories.
Tonight, a hair-raising murder in Kitui still haunts a family. Why police are looking closer home for clues. As 6 suspects face charges over teacher Daisy Mbathe's death. Also tonight, the trouble smouldering in the north.
Kunjificha chini ya kitanda nilikuwa na huyu mtoto. Nilisikia enyewe ilikuwa ni ngumu sana.
If masks are brought down, are destroyed, are those masks made for police officers, for security officers?
The trail of death and destruction, and a tough lesson for the government as Al-Shabaab strikes a school in Garissa. Plus,
this morning when you came to the court,
trouble piles up for Gatundu South Legislator. Court declines to grant him anticipatory bail as plea taking in his assault case is deferred. And also tonight,
The president, obviously, the head of state, must be aware of all these things surrounding the BBI.
He left long time ago. He just lacks the courage to tell Kenyans that I have left. But he has been campaigning since 2017 for his presidential election for 2022.
a marriage is on the rocks. What are the deputy president's options?
NTV Tonight with Smriti Vidyarthi.
Joining us in sign language interpretation tonight is David Agondoa. To our top story now, and police in Kitui are now looking closer home and into close family members over last week's murder of Ndoni Primary School teacher Daisy Mbathe. 4 of the 6 suspects arraigned today over her murder, including the prime suspect, are her relatives. Seth Olale has been following the story and brings us the latest from Kitui.
At 3:30 p.m., 6 suspects arrested over the weekend in connection with the horrific murder of Ngoni Primary School teacher Daisy Mbathe Mbuluka were ushered into the packed courtroom at the Kitui Law Courts. But it is the identities of the suspects presented before court that has raised eyebrows. 4 of the 6 suspects are members of the same family and are related to the deceased. They are Mutiso Mulwa, the second accused and one of the prime suspects in the murder case. Mutiso's wife, Nzagi Mulwa, who is the third accused in the murder case, is also a suspect and was arrested after her husband went into hiding. Mutiso's mother, Rachel Nzangi Mutiso, is the 5th accused person. She was arrested after she told police that his son had gone into hiding, only for police to arrest him about 15 kilometers from the crime scene where he had been hiding at his uncle's place. He had also switched off his mobile phone. Mutiso's uncle, Amos Jacob Kithiki, the first accused person in the murder case, is also in trouble for shielding his nephew who was on the run from the law. The deceased's estranged husband, Lawrence Mbindi Ndolo, who lives in Nairobi, is also being treated as a suspect, as is Mutiso's neighbor, Martha Kisilu, who's the 6th accused person. Bernard Jeffwa, the investigative officer attached to Kitui DCI office, requested the courts to be allowed to detain the suspects for 21 days in order to complete investigations. The officer, through a sworn affidavit, stated that the suspects arraigned in court could tamper with ongoing investigations if released. The prosecution also wanted the accused persons to be held separately as they are related and could share information on the murder and that the authorities seek. The suspects, however, wanted to be released on bond, saying they have young dependents who have no one to look after them. Kitui Chief Magistrate Stephen Mbugi ordered the accused persons be detained under lawful custody to assist police in investigations. They will be held separately at Kabati, Endau and Mitini police stations. 2 other suspects linked to the murder of teacher Daisy were also arraigned at the same court and will be detained for 21 days. Kitui County Investigative Officer Anthony Sunguti, who's leading the investigations, ruled out Ngoni Primary School KCPE's performance as the motive of the murder. Authorities say the perpetrators only took advantage of the protests to execute the crime. Detectives from DCI Headquarters, Serious Crimes Division and Homicide Unit are now digging for clues into the murder and are looking closer home for answers to the murder that still haunts the small village in Kitui and Daisy's two children who watched the crime unfold. Police estimate that between 8 and 12 people were at the exact scene where the horrific murder of teacher Daisy Mbade occurred on January 6th. Police have detained 8 people so far, with 6 others believed to be on the run. Seth Olale, NTV at the Kitui Law Courts.
What a shocking twist of events. We will be staying on that story. Now, survivors of an Al-Shabaab early morning attack on teachers at Kamuthe boarding school in Garissa County have been recounting the ordeal. They speak of a vicious attack that primarily targeted male teachers at the school. And this just days after 4 pupils from Sarethe Primary in Garissa were killed by the Al-Shabaab and 3 others injured.
Kamuthe area of Garissa County was little known before today. But the gunshots and explosions before dawn would change that.
Around 1.
For Anne Gideon, prayers became her blanket of safety. She says that the shooting started at about 1 a.m. She heard a man who sounded like the leader of the terror group shout instructions that everyone in the vicinity should be killed.
We were just under the bed. Then we were only praying to God. They were just standing there. We said, Jesus, help us. God be with us. Nothing else. It is only God who helped us. There were 4 men here, 3 ladies. Those are 7. Plus the other one who was in that house. They are 8.
Lucy Wanjiru, also a teacher, hid under her bed with her child, whispering prayers. The attack went on for about 2 hours.
Nobody else who came to our house, apart from these people from Kamuthe who came in the morning to wake us up and telling us that we are safe, we are Kamuthe people. Nobody else came to our rescue. Naelekea mwaka wa pili.
Na utaendelea kukaa?
Hapana, hii maisha hii ni ngumu sana hii. Yenye nimeshuhudia ni ngumu sana, sioni kama naweza dundi hapa.
Robert Kivuti has been a teacher at Kamuthe boarding school for 6 years. He narrowly escaped the attack when he ran from his house after hearing the first gunshots and hid on top of a tree, where he saw approximately 20 of the Al-Shabaab militants escape shortly before the police arrived.
By the way, serikali ingejua civil servants wanafaa kuwa trained na wa armed in such a situation kama kitu area kama hizi. Otherwise, kufanya kazi in these areas, it will be tedious. Na watoto wataumia.
The 3 teachers that have been killed have been identified as Caleb Mutua, Samuel Mutua, and Titus Sasiaka. The Teachers Service Commission has issued a statement in which they say that the loss of the teachers has not only impacted the teaching fraternity, but the country as a whole. Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Wilson Sosion, condemned the attack and urged the government to take action.
The brutal and systematic attacks on the non-local teachers in northeastern region has now become a common phenomenon, which calls on the Ministry of Interior and national coordination in partnership with that of Education and the Teacher Service Commission to work out an elaborate security program.
The school has now been closed and non-local teachers have been transferred back to their home areas. Gena Kirori, NTV.
Elsewhere, 6 people died after a bus they were travelling in collided with a matatu at Mida area on the Mombasa-Malindi highway. The bus was headed to Mombasa from Garissa while the matatu was moving in the opposite direction when the accident occurred. The Malindi Sub-County Traffic Base Commander said the driver of the matatu, who was on the way to Malindi, lost control of his vehicle while trying to overtake a saloon car and collided head-on with the bus travelling to Mombasa. The private car hit the bus from behind, but none of the passengers on board the private vehicle or the bus were injured.
Vile jamaa aliingia overtaking pale, mimi sikuona ile gari ali overtake, ilikuwa kwa kona, lakini vile hapo straight vile nimeona huyo jamaa arudi line yake, mimi nika slow down akakuja kunigonga.
Ile kitu inaweza kuwa imechangia ajalini kwamba kuna manyunyu kidogo kwa barabara na wasi madriver wakati wa manyunyu kama hii, kuna utelezi kwa barabara na wasi waendesha magari kwa uangalifu.
Now, Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria was today denied anticipatory bail by the courts in a case in which he's been accused of assaulting a woman in December 2019. The legislator had sought protection from the court, claiming he and his Kandara counterpart, that's Alice Wahome, had been threatened by the Kilimani police station OCS. Zainab Ismail has the details.
He sat pensively on the dock as he watched his lawyer, John Khaminwa, plead with the court to allow him anticipatory bail. It was anyway not his first time he had been arrested or charged in court. The defense, adorned with a yellow ribbon, a silent protest against what they see as an oppressive regime. But in her ruling, Magistrate Martha Mutuku directed the lawmaker to take plea on Tuesday instead.
The suspect should take the plea right away. There's nothing stopping this court. Your Honor, that is my humble prayer.
From asking, let us take another date. I'm bearing in my hand when this will be to have a chat with you.
Outside the court, the lawmaker was flanked by a section of his colleagues, most of whom are drawn from what is now known as the Team Tanga Tanga, and who had harsh words for the police for Friday's chaos outside the Kilimani police station.
Something very unique happened, which is a further intimidation. A letter from somewhere was, somebody attempted to serve a letter from the Honorable Moses Kuria, and maybe he can speak to that because I haven't seen it, but those are still games of trying to intimidate.
We want to challenge and request Chief Justice David Maraga to speak on this issue of disobedience of court orders, because he's the head of the judiciary. What happens when one arm of the government is disobeying orders from another arm of government? That's a very dangerous precedent.
Even the judiciary should take notice that when you cordon off a place and then you go ahead to arrest people, it's really a bad deal. Even those people, 5 people, they are Kenyans and they have got their rights. Release them. I am the problem. If you think I'm the problem, I am the problem. Mr. President, maybe to your shida.
Kuria was released from the Kilimani police cells last Saturday around 7 p.m. after he deposited 20,000 shillings to secure his freedom. Politicians affiliated to Deputy President William Ruto, who went to camp outside the station demanding his release, were tear-gassed by police. The legislator is alleged to have assaulted the complainant, Joyce Wanja, on December 8th last year at the Royal Media Services premises during a show in which the Member of Parliament was invited to discuss the Building Bridges initiative.
Naomba wewe uko hapo nje, hata kama unaweza lipa, unisaidie nilipe wakili ndio nipate haki yangu, na ndio pia hawa MPs ama waheshimiwa wetu siku nyingine wasiwahi dhurumu wanjiko mwingine huku Kenya.
Zainab Ismail, NTV.
And still with the courts, the fate of Miguna Miguna's return to Kenya has once again been placed in the Attorney General's court as the High Court seeks his explanation as to why court orders on his case haven't been obeyed. The Attorney General and the Solicitor General will now have to explain the reluctance by the government to implement a flurry of orders that would have seen Miguna's unfettered re-entry into Kenya. Brenda Wanga with the details.
The Attorney General found himself in trouble in court early Monday morning, his tribulations seemingly self-inflicted. The AG had been expected in court to shed light on the government's disobedience of a number of court orders touching on Miguna Miguna's return to Kenya. The latest orders instructing the government to facilitate the unhindered return of self-styled National Resistance Movement General Miguna Miguna last week. Those were not obeyed alongside a string of others issued by at least 5 other judges on the same subject.
It does appear that there is something, someone, somewhere, and so on who's controlling things, and we do not know who it is. What is happening? Who is this that is not causing court orders not to be obeyed, and so on. Who is he in relation to the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya?
And it was on the strength of the continued disobedience that the courts asked the AG to appear in court, but he instead sent a representative, a move that Miguna's lawyers say was a slap in their face.
We have a real problem in the country, and we need assistance from the Attorney General. We need a mature person to throw some light on what is happening, on what is going on. We're not trying to belittle anybody at all. It is not a battle of wits at all. It is a real problem.
And compliance with the previous court orders has become so serious that it requires the explanation of the Attorney General himself in person. So he cannot send Mr. Bita, whom I greatly respect, to come and represent him.
The judge now wants the Attorney General and the Solicitor General to act and provide answers to the big question. Why is the government not complying with court orders?
And having emphasized that the AG is a friend of this court, I hold the view that his opinion holds the key to the resolution of the issues before this court. The issues I have highlighted above. So the Honorable Attorney General can give his opinion, as he has done in many occasions, as an amicus. If he wants in person, he can delegate, and he has done that as the law permits.
Miguna's re-entry into Kenya has run into headwinds caused by a red alert he says was issued from the presidency, but one that the government insists was caused by his own actions that landed him on the dreaded International Aviation Unruly Passengers list. While the core issue remains the saga surrounding the return of Miguna Miguna, the drama is also testing the powers and independence of the judiciary. And as the country waits to see who blinks first between the judiciary and the executive, the man at the center of it all remains stranded in Berlin, Germany. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Elsewhere, the changes announced by the National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF, continue to provoke reactions, this time garnering support from unlikely quarters. Effective January 1st, 2020, the fund reviewed its terms, reducing the number of beneficiaries to be covered by the policy. But as Gladys Gashanja reports, not everyone is opposed to the NHIF changes.
The reforms at NHIF have revised the number of dependents from 10 to 5, and the policy will now only cover one spouse. This puts a sharp focus on communities that encourage polygamy.
Haitaleta shida na haitaleta utata katika familia kwa sababu inamaanisha tu watoto wengine watakuwa wanabebwa na bima ya mama kwa sababu baba atakuwa kwa laini nyingine.
However, speaking to NTV on phone, the Kajiado County Government CEC in charge of health, Esther Somoire, says the move is draconian and punitive and will water down efforts by both levels of government towards achieving universal health care. Somoire says the reforms might lock out most needy people in Kajiado County, especially expectant mothers, and may contribute to more mothers giving birth at home, considering the pastoral way of life of the community. The new NHIF policy that came into effect silently on the 1st of January states that additional dependents can be included subject to payment of additional premium, but many Kenyans have a problem with that.
The fact that we are an African country, polygamy is allowed, and it's not fair that you register only one wife.
Kama mzee na wanawake watatu, nina watoto zaidi ya 5. Kwa hivyo watakuwa wametupunguzia na wametuharibia sana.
NHIF also wants to increase the waiting period for new voluntary national scheme members from 2 to 3 months before they can begin accessing the services. Self-employed Kenyans will have to pay 6,000 shillings before starting to use their NHIF cards.
Mtu ambaye anafanya kazi mahali ameajiriwa ndio anaweza pata hiyo pesa na alipe hivyo.
Ukiingia mashinani watu hawana NHIF. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu kuna mashida. Watu wana concentrate na hand to mouth.
Vile NHIF wanaipeleka hivi sasa ni kama ni private insurance company ambayo lazima uambatane na terms and conditions zao.
The upscaling of the universal health coverage to all the 47 counties has started with the first group of governors from Central Kenya Economic Bloc signing an interministerial partnership agreement with the Ministry of Health. The coming days will see other counties signing on to the agreement. But with many Kenyans considering accessing affordable healthcare beyond their means, the government remains mum.
The matter has found its way into the media. It therefore must be responded to, and as we respond, we'll be seeking to give solutions to Kenyans. So Wednesday morning.
Gladys Gashanja, NTV.
A referendum to change the constitution is highly unlikely this year. President Uhuru Kenyatta dashed the hopes of holding a plebiscite this year with the gazettement of a team to implement the BBI report and giving it a timeline of 6 months. Now, the committee is expected to submit its advice to the government by the 30th of June 2020. And this blows off demands by the Orange Democratic Movement Party through its Senate Minority Leader, James Orengo, that a referendum be held by July this year before the 2022 campaign's kick-off. The Gazette notice also reveals that the members of the Steering Committee on the implementation of the Building Bridges to a United Kenya Task Force report remain the same. Now, the terms of reference of the committee, however, change, and they are required to conduct validation of the task force report through consultation with citizens, civil society, faith-based organizations, cultural leaders, the private sector and experts. Also propose administrative policy